You're welcome.
Almost that time, isn't it?
Thank you for the coffee, Coach. It's awesome tonight. Thank you. Exceptionally good tonight.
Hey, I
Okay,
bet.
I made it.
I was gonna say yeah,
Where'd you get that coffee?
gotta be better than what.
I do own a little artisan coffee roasting company, so it's from there.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, just another minute or two, then we can get started. Hey, Lori, do we have anybody that wants to speak in the comments?
You were just reading my mind. Yes, we have Mr. Jimmy Lanahan is logged on as an attendee. So
Okay, great.
He requested permission last night.
Okay, great. And anybody else? No?
Not that I've heard of.
Hi, Kathleen.
Okay.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hey, how are you?
How is everybody this evening?
Oh, we're good.
Hopefully,
Hanging in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. We've just adjourned from executive session and we're going into regular meeting for February 23rd. Could you all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
United
States
States
of
of
America
America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it's
for which it stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, dudes. All right, public comment. Jimmy Lanahan, do you have him up?
Good evening, board members. Can you folks hear me?
Yes, I can, Jimmy. Yeah.
It's a cold one, but we're all still here.
Yeah, it's really cold.
So I just had a brief comment, and it's more of an observation that I've been noticing in the community, online in Facebook groups and such. There's a lot of misconceptions going around maintenance of our buildings, about how it's done and not such a good order and such. And I would love to see a way that I know we've communicated it so many times in board meetings and
Yeah,
such. Now we don't have a local newspaper really to put out our messages, but I think it's important that we latch onto those opportunities to inform people. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I would love to succeed at that task.
yeah. I'm so glad you're bringing this up, Jimmy.
Lastly, I've been speaking to a couple of community members, and it's been around the bond process that we have going on.
Yeah,
I'm starting to get a really good vibe that we're going to need to do like door-to-door knock and talks.
yes.
And that's something that I plan to bring up at our next meeting with Wenaha. But I just wanted to feel that out with you folks too. We're in the beginning of stages, but I'm really seeing that that's where we're going to get
Yeah.
a big win. One more thing, at our last board meeting, we had some disgruntled community members that came in, and I think I just want to say that I praise Randy Dalton for all the hard work that he's done for our community. And I
Yeah,
think he's a great administrator, and he deserves better a lot of times.
yeah, yeah, he's quite good. Yeah, appreciate your comments, Jimmy.
Other than that, I'm here for the meeting tonight. Thank you very much.
Right, thank
Jimmy.
you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anyone want to consider changes to the agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I've got two changes I'd like to add to action items
Okay,
immediately after the interdistrict transfer.
okay,
First thing would be agenda item to discuss mid-year performance review feedback on the superintendent.
okay. Mid-year
And it-
feedback.
And the second, after that, a update from the superintendent's office on the weather and inclement weather situation.
Okay,
I'll second.
it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments or suggestions? Hearing none, we're going to put to a vote. All those in favor, raise your right arm. And it looks unanimous. All right. It passes. All right, so now we're going to do the interdistrict transfer. Is that Tony that's going to be talking about that? The interdistrict transfer recommendation?
It is. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
All right,
So directors, you'll see in your packet here this evening, a procedure that's required by law that all school boards are given the authority to direct the district in making decisions regarding the number of, effectively, the number of student openings that will be available.
You froze, Tony.
you froze, Tony. I think his computer froze.
Yeah.
Except outside in request.
Tony,
Oh,
Tony,
yeah.
you froze. You, in fact, we totally lost all of your explanation, so you might have to start at the beginning. It has something to do with the JECB admissions of resident students.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. You just froze for a moment. It just took the whole thing.
Yeah, if that happens again, what I'll do is I'll log out off my laptop and go down to my desktop here. So
That sounds great. Okay.
annually, school boards are asked under Oregon statute to declare how many open seats they're going to allow for students to transfer into their district and how many open spots or slots will be allowed for district students to transfer out of the district, and also set a window of time when that will take place. The recommendation that we've brought forward as an administrative team annually is exactly the same recommendation that we're presenting tonight. But to just give you a little bit of context, we do set the dates, or we recommend the setting of those dates, in that it allows for us to evaluate class size and make class assignments and determine FTE, how many teachers we're going to need per section to open school effectively in the fall. So those dates are there for that purpose. As far as setting the number or a limit of any kind on the number of students that can transfer into or out of our district, we made the decision some years ago after monitoring and seeing that we had to move really to a balance of students wishing to come into the Mohawk River School District relative to the number wishing to transfer out. And, you know, maybe this is, I think parents have the inalienable right to choose what's best for their children. And I'm not afraid of the competition, honestly, around, you know, surrounding districts. And so we've not set a cap on that. And we've allowed anyone who wished to transfer out of the district the opportunity to do so. And we've accepted any student who's wished to transfer into the district. So that's a mirror of our recommendation this year. Again, we present it as a recommendation. It is the board's discretion how you proceed with this matter, though. And so I'll answer any questions that you have. And
So is this something
Madam-
you need a motion? Yes,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I recommend that we adopt the motion presented by the superintendent for the transfer of students in and out of the district.
Okay, I need a second. Oh,
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussions? Okay,
Madam Chair, I do have one question
Yeah.
for Mr. Mann. You know, so obviously I wasn't around when you probably did this around the same time last year. I certainly remember this whole issue and the process and all of what led up to it and whatnot. But I don't recall the August 1st date that's contained in this recommendation. Is that the same recommendation as adopted last year and let's say the year before that?
Without looking back to put them side by side and affirm that, what I can say is that we, if I'm not mistaken, Lori, am I right? We pulled the language from the board materials last year and really just updated them to be a mirror of what was recommended last year. Am I right or wrong about that, Lori?
It actually wasn't last year. Going back through board notes, I couldn't find any, and I'm pretty sure it was because of COVID and online learning. The wording from this one in particular was pulled from February of 2019.
Thank you. And that's a good
Okay.
reminder. So the variable in that is that there was a period of time in the state due to legislative action that this actual construct of setting limits and timelines was set aside, and the legislature declared that all school districts in the state should have open enrollment and that they not be in a position to approve or deny. And so that open enrollment law did sunset. Forgive me for forgetting that detail. That open enrollment law did sunset, and we're returning back to that space where we can set limits. And again, that's my recommendation. These are my recommendations from before that open enrollment time period.
So we're doing the same dates that we
Okay.
had before.
Yes, but it was some years ago, as Lori points out, from back to 2019.
Okay. Thank you, Tony.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, it's unanimous. Motion passes. Okay, the next one is we want to discuss mid-year feedback for Tony's evaluation.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I move that board leadership be directed to summarize the board discussion that was held in executive session this evening, regarding a mid-year performance review of the superintendent.
okay, anyone second? Okay, so who did, Neil Luke will be the second. Sorry, Mitch, he was there first. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussions? Okay, let's make a motion. All those in favor, raise your right arm. And it's unanimous. Okay, the motion passes. Okay, the next one is, let's see, summarize district.
Weather.
Yes. I forgot. Where is it? Update on the,
Yeah, this is
could you tell me
Mr. Mayor.
again, Mark?
Yeah, Mr.
I can't read
Mr.
my own writing.
Tony would like an opportunity to talk about the inclement weather.
Yeah, the
You-
inclement
you-
weather. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Eskridge and directors. At the time our agenda was set, it really didn't look like we were going to be affected by inclement weather, but I did ask that we consider a little bit of space here this evening so that I can share with you the decision-making that's taken place yesterday and moving on into almost real time right now. The weather last night became really clear based on the feedback I was receiving both from our transportation company as well as employees, both outside of the district boundaries and employees inside the district boundaries. Milano in particular, that it was looking like this morning clearly, since temperatures were not going to rise, and we made the decision to give parents. I made the decision, right? I'm going to own that every time. I can't pass that on to a committee because just one person makes a decision when it's a matter of safety, and that's just appropriate procedure. So I made that decision last night to give parents as much notice as possible related to inclement weather, as opposed to waiting until the morning, because it did seem to me, given the fact temperatures were going to remain low, clear at that time. And I think, even additional snow came in the night than even what was predicted at the time I went to bed. I heard that there were as many as 10 inches at the airport.
Yeah.
My son lives in Happy Valley. He has 7 inches on the ground in the backyard. Still, snow in the tertiary streets covered by ice as things heated up and then cooled down again tonight. We're seeing this evening that school districts across the Multnomah County have closed already. and districts to the north of us have begun closing. North Clackamas has. Really looking at our circumstances, I've never in 11 years been in a situation where all of our streets, I mean, not just the main streets, but even the side streets across our district are bone dry. And yet everything north and northeast of Beaver Creek is really still potentially influenced by effects of the snow that came in. So, the question of bus routes tomorrow, I'm confident that buses can travel and we won't even likely need snow routes. However, we've done a little bit of research. We know that about 20% of our licensed employees live northeast of Beaver Creek and would be commuting from areas that are still affected by weather. And certainly employee safety is equally as important as student safety. And yet, at some point I've got to make a decision. At what point are we at a tipping point to open school in person versus close school? If all the data at hand right now were to hold for the next couple of hours, I'll share with the board that I did send an email to all district employees here about 2 hours ago, asking them to let their principal know if we're certain that they weren't going to be able to safely come to work tomorrow, and to put that absence into our data system so that we could make sure we had the best possible access to substitute teachers tomorrow. Again, it's about 20% of our licensed teachers are northeast. My best thinking here a couple of hours ago was to go ahead and do school tomorrow with a 2-hour delay, allowing staff the opportunity to let the roads clear out and giving them the heads up notice this evening to prepare, sort of mindful that their safety is important. The feedback I've received here in the last 45 minutes has been really nothing but positive. It doesn't mean everybody's happy with what I signaled to all of our employees by any stretch, but I've received a lot of positive feedback from employees saying, thank you for giving us advance notice. And so I'm going to check back in with principals again after your board meeting here tonight and make my final decision before bedtime tonight so that parents can make that adjustment. We are on a late start Friday already, so that 1-hour delay would become a 2-hour delay tomorrow. If for some reason there were weather that were unexpected, or I got guidance information back from our principals that said we're just concerned about absences and staff being able to come in and do school, I'll deal with that information when it comes in. If we did close school tomorrow, I've already made the decision that I would extend the school year by an additional day in June. I've built those contingencies. I've never once in 11 years been in a situation, like I said, where it was so clearly possible to do school tomorrow in our district and so clearly not possible for districts northeast of Beaver Creek to do school. It's really odd, but I wanted the board to know at least that I'm trying to be thoughtful about how I make that decision. And I've been consulting with other superintendents across the county as well. So be glad to answer any questions that you have. Like I said, my intention is to make a decision about tomorrow here yet tonight before bedtime.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for Tony? Nope. Okay. The next is information discussion, and I'm going to have Mitch talk about it. He wants to talk about board member participation in community events. You're on, Mitch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, in our work session, the word opportunity came up 2 or 3 different times, and then Jimmy at the beginning of our board meeting brought it up again. And I think this is an opportunity for all the board members to get involved with the community. And there's a couple different motivations. Number one is when I sat in on my 2 focus groups several weeks ago, the amount of feedback and the amount of, oh, wow, there's a board member here it was just an eye-opening experience for me. And again, this is an opportunity, I think, that it presents itself. We have a vision statement we're putting together, the mission statement we're putting together. We're doing pre-bond work that hopefully come next spring, we put it before the voters. There's a couple other big things going on in our local community. And I think it's like a harmonic convergence of all these different positive forces in the Molalla area. And what I would like to recommend is that each of the 7 of us, go out, let's say 2 different events per month We can identify a list of chamber meetings, city council, PTA, whatever it is. And I know a lot of people are already out there engaging the community like this. But if we made it an official thing where we went out there and we identified it so that the board knew you're going here tomorrow, I'm going to be here the next week. And we go out there, we press the flesh, we spread the message that the communication department is going to be putting out about the bond, about whatever other messaging that we have that the district would like us to share. It's an opportunity for us to go out there and talk to the public. And also that's one of the things that I was hearing at the focus groups was we don't do that enough. And so maybe this is an opportunity. It's just drops in the bucket, and the bucket is very big. But eventually, if you get enough drops in a bucket, the bucket fills up. So I'd like to present that for discussion to see what your feedback would be, and if that would be something the board would be willing to commit to on a monthly basis.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Craig.
in response to Mitch's question, I think it's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
You probably remember that when I was on the board previously, especially in my first probably 5 years on the board, I often spoke about suggesting that people go out and get involved, go to meetings, talk to people in the community. And I did that myself regularly, visiting other boards, parent groups, local, what would I call it? Local boards like the Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that.
And PTA.
Where I might depart a little bit from this is referring to it as an official representation of the board or the district. We all, I think, have not only the right, but the responsibility, as Mitch just pointed out, I think, to be involved in the community and talk to folks. But as you know, our bylaws, or I should say our board policies, and I think our enabling resolutions, whatever you want to call it, that we adopt each year, refer to only two people as the official representative of the board, and that would be the superintendent and the board chair. With the exception that, and I've been in this position myself, that the board can take action to appoint any individual it wants to be an official representative of the district. But I look at that as being, I personally look at that as being something that you do on a subject by subject basis, rather than just giving each member carte blanche to sort of be an official representative of the district on every subject, due to the fact that, according to state law, we can only represent the public based on the actual votes that we take as a group, right?
Yes.
So it makes it kind of difficult as an individual to go out and say, I'm an official member or an official representative of the Molalla River School District when I'm at the, let's say, the Chamber of Commerce, when in fact, the comments I make may not actually reflect the
will of the board.
the voice of the board.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know, because the question could be on something that the board has never discussed.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it a little problematic to use that word official. But on the other hand, I think it might be a good idea to say, if there's a particular topic that we want board members to push, then that's where we might be an official representative of the board, maybe with respect to informing people in the community about a bond measure, or informing the people in the community. Like in my case, I'll just use this as an example. It's not really pertinent right now, but in my case, it was going to the legislature and talking to individual legislators about the importance of the mascot to the Molalla community. The board voted to authorize me to go do that, to speak on that subject, not to be an official representative to the legislature on all subjects, just that one. So I guess that's where I would, I don't know if I want to say take exception, but that's just my concern. I'll throw in one more thing. For those of you who've been on the board for a while, Mark, Neil, Linda,
Yeah.
if you recall, if we had done something like this with another person or two on the board and we'd said, you know, okay, all of you, we want you to go to meetings and we want you to be an official representative of the board. I frankly would have been very concerned about some of the things that those people might have said on behalf of the board to those people in the community. And so I guess I worry a little bit that if we go too far, that it could create miscommunication in the community.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say on that. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak up? Yes, Neil.
Yeah, I kind of want to echo, Craig's comments, because in an official capacity, as we are mandated from the state, we are really actually only school board members when we are in session.
Yes.
And so that doesn't mean we're not out there and representing people. Yes, I do serve on the school board, but anytime we're out there, our opinions and our, positions are truly just our own and not those of the school board. Unless we have in a motion made a specific request, as Craig, suggested. So we do have a legal and kind of line that we have to walk in that way. That being said, I'm passionate about community involvement. I think the more we are out there and having the opportunities to have conversations with people. But I think, I think a lot of us do that already. Sometimes we're challenged to meet other specific schedules. I serve on 2 community boards right now and a couple other committees. So it's, finding another specific mandate for, another couple days a month are a challenge. But, I think if we all can do what we can, I think the community is better served for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking if we just went out there just to listen to the people's concerns, what concerns them about the school district, and to remind them that we are just individuals and we have no ability to make a promise or any of that, because we as a board can only decide on the board, not singularly. Mark, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I love the idea that Mitch came up with. I like the idea of being visible and listening. And I also share, what Craig mentioned about being very careful about not speaking on behalf of the board.
Yes.
So, but I love the spirit and of what Mitch is bringing forward.
Yes, Mitch.
Madam Chair. And maybe I chose the incorrect language. I didn't want it to come across as like, let's mandate this, let's be an official representation, but just being present and listening, like we did at those focus groups. We were there to listen and talk to people. And it really was a breath of fresh air for a lot of the people that I got to talk to. And just again, from personal experience, they were like, man, it's nice to see the board people here.
Yeah.
And so just having a way that we can create more of those conversations and the feedback, especially going into this pre-bond work. And maybe that's what we rally around, is that message. Once they write the press release with the bullet points, maybe that's what we go out there, and not mandated, but just go out there like we're already doing. I want to do more of it myself, but I don't want to just do it without a plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I want you guys to know what I would like to go and attend. And that's why I thought maybe if we just had some kind of a informal calendar that we said, hey, yeah, I want to go to the city council and sit in the back row and just let them know that we're here, and we do work very closely with the city council. We work closely with all the different local groups, but having that physical presence and having that interaction and listening and the conversations that they want to have with us. Again, it all comes back, I think a lot of it comes back to this bond. Let's get out there and help spread that message, spread the gospel according to the district.
Mitch, did you mention that you wanted Lori to get you a list of all the events that are taking place so that we'd know what is out there for each?
Yeah, I mean, everything's public knowledge, but if we just kind of collated a list of events and then made it public to us.
Yeah.
If there's something that stuck out, it's like, hey, yeah, I can do that. I do have that time available. I can spare 1 hour a month. even if it's just informal, just so that we're all cognizant, we're all aware, and we communicate where we're going. I think that would be helpful to me anyway.
And then we could
Don't help
have
me.
the talking points through our communication specialist.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that everybody's saying the same thing and not two different things or whatever.
As a non-representative. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
understand that part for sure.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
one thing Mitch said made me think, you mentioned a plan. And I think that's an excellent thing to kind of focus on, which is,
the plan.
like you said, coming up with a list of different events and organizations, and then, but also sort of cross-referencing the list against the activities that board members already have, so we can see where maybe there's overlap, or where there's, where we need coverage, maybe, where we could use someone to go out and just say hi, and let them know that the school district and the board are interested in what they have to say. But yeah, just sort of that kind of planning thing
Okay.
could be really helpful, so that into the future, as we're trying to get our message out, especially when we get to a point where, as Mitch has referred to, with respect to a bond measure, where we have a specific subject that we want to talk about, and that we want to get out to the community and talk about, we can do that more effectively than just, kind of us all going our own direction, not knowing what each of the other is doing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if we got the list of what everybody's doing, like Neil, he's on a lot of meetings already. So he could say exactly what he's doing already and not add anything more because he's a busy guy. So anybody else want to say anything else on this?
I
Was
like
that
the idea.
somebody, Linda, I was gonna say, is that something that Lori could help us with? Would that be inappropriate, or?
No, she can help us with that. And also the communication person. What's her name? Allison? Yeah, Tony? Yeah.
I would just add, if it's the sort of the will of the group, we'd be glad to put together exactly that sort of a structure of time and space and where, and
Yeah.
also, staying with factual statements. If there are 3 to 5 factual statements about things happening in the district right now
Right.
that we can package together and have board members get that communication from myself, that Allison Holstein can help craft, get them to you, and do that every couple weeks.
Yeah.
We'd be happy to do that if that's where the will of the group goes.
Sure. Would it be helpful also, let's say, for example, to have each individual board member maybe send an email to Lori to specify where we're already doing things as well? Like I'm already involved in a couple of groups up in Clark's where I attend regularly,
That's what I would like to see.
so she can add those to the list.
I can tell you that I kind of jumped ahead, and when Mitch had proposed it, and I've kind of already have a spreadsheet put together,
Oh,
just for the month. I think if we can just kind of
Like
keep
March.
it narrowed down for March, and
Okay.
then halfway through that month, I'll look ahead and get some April stuff together. But yeah, I mean, it's a simple internet search, and I was very surprised at how much stuff is out there. So, but yeah, like Tony said, if it's, your guys' decision that this is something you want, then
I
I
think
can
we
certainly
should
help.
start doing it. Because Jimmy Lanahan coming up with this information about people having misconceptions about our care of the facilities is very concerning. I believe we've had plenty of information out there saying, come and visit our middle school. So we're going to have to get out there and make sure they get a chance to see it and see what we are doing.
Mhm.
Well, Linda, this is sort of spur of the moment, so it may be a little inartful, but in line with what Tony just said, I would say I move that we direct the superintendent's office, whoever that would be, to compile a list of activities. What would I want to say? Community activities and organizations.
Public
And
event.
provide that sort of a spreadsheet of those to the board monthly.
Okay, anybody want to give me a second? Okay, it's been seconded by Mitch, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, go ahead and raise your right arm. Okay, it's unanimous. Motion passes. We had only one motion initially, and now we have lots. Okay. Okay, now we've got the SEI filing with Oregon Government Ethics Commission. Is that you, Tony? Are you taking that on, or is
That's me.
Keith?
Yep,
No.
that's me.
Oh.
With your guys's agenda, there was a Oregon Government Ethics Commission flyer. It was just a one-page attachment.
Oh.
Let me see if I can share my screen without.
Oh, that's to make sure we're not gaining any financial, what is it? Conflict of interest, that type of thing.
Yep.
Make sure you're not
Yeah.
enriching your family by being on the school
On the
board.
board, yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, it's a new
Alright, let me-
requirement, House Bill 4114. Requires members of district school boards for a common school district or union high school to file verified statements of economic interests. Yeah, you got it right there.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so this is just the one-page flyer that they give us. So there's a new House bill that passed, just requires you guys to go in and exactly as somebody said, not making sure you're not making money as an individual off of the district. So this has a link. So if you go to the OGEC notification, my responsibility as your jurisdictional contact was to make sure that you have that you are signed up through OGEC. You should have gotten an email. You need to go in and create an account. So that is part of my step, was to make sure that you guys have that information and that the Government Ethics Commission has your information. So you should have received an email. Your account has to be created before March 15th. And I think there's about 3 of you left out of the 7 that haven't done it. Tony has to do it also. So does Keith. So if you guys can get in there before March 15th and get that account created. And then starting on March 15th until April 15th is when is your opening window to go in and answer those questions. The statement of economic interest page has a lot of information on it. They basically tell you what the questions are. If you want to do a training, there's a training, but it's basically just a series of questions is what they're, and if you answer yes to this, you'll be answering more questions. If you answer no, you go to the next one, kind of thing.
Okay.
So as the jurisdictional contact, I'm there to make sure that you guys create your profile and that you file by April 15th, but I can't do it for you. And there is no option for a paper copy. That was one of the things I looked for, just because I wanted to make sure that, that wasn't an option. It all has to be done electronically. And the deadline is April 15th. So right now your job is to make sure you go in and just get that account created. And I will send you an email on or around March 15th to remind you, hey, starting on March 15th, don't forget that you have to go in and do your statement of economic interest.
Okay.
So that's about it. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Neil.
could you, I don't think I've ever received that invite. It's probably in my district email. Barry, if you could find that, make sure that
Yes.
gets forwarded. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you haven't gotten it, make sure you let me know. I will double check on Neil's, and I'll go, and I can keep tabs on who has created an account and who hasn't. So if you haven't gotten it, reach out to me.
Lori, can I ask you a specific question?
I
don't-
may have an answer. Go for it.
Yeah. Have you noticed that I have an account?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I went in to do that and I can't remember what it was, but it seemed to me that I couldn't set up an account because I already had an existing account.
Right, you
And-
did.
okay.
And yeah,
All right.
when I was typing in your name, yours just kind of popped up as
Okay.
an already recognized entity. So yeah,
All right.
you're good.
Thank you.
Right on the ball. Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay, the next one is integrated funding presentation. You get,
That is me.
that's
Good
you. All right,
evening,
Kathleen.
directors. How is everybody? I have a storm above my head. I'm in Canby and I'm hearing all sorts of branches. The weather is just so crazy.
Crazy.
I will get into my presentation and share with you about the Integrated Six, and it's an application that we'll be submitting at the end of March. Before I do that, though, I did want to share, my other big project is our math adoption project. I guess we could call it a project process. And we're getting to the end, and I will, of course, be asking for your approval. I'll be sure that, I talk about that again just briefly, but I know, Director Eskridge, I always think of you when we talk.
Thank you.
Making sure the public looks at the materials. It's true. There's a common theme going on tonight in this meeting about getting our public and our families. And I was a busy mom when my children were in school. So I do get that aspect, that it's kind of hard to get places and be participating. But I do want to let you know. So let me tell you what we have done with the adoption and getting the public to look at the materials that we are considering for math and for English learning.
Yeah.
We had the materials set at the high school and at the middle school. And the high school, we were very strategic because they were having parent conferences. So we had the math teachers direct the parents, to take a look and to leave comments. And then we did our digital flyer. We took out an ad in the paper, making sure people knew what was going on. And we also messaged through our website and our district Facebook page. I think that was, in our district communication. And we haven't had a lot of comments. One thing that I think happens, our librarian, the high school librarian, told me that there were a lot of people that looked at it but didn't leave a comment. And I just think about past experience. And I do remember parents saying with other adoptions, well, what would you like me to say? I'm not a teacher, but just knowing that they looked. So I know I don't know, I'm going to be very transparent here. I don't know if putting it in the public library is going to make much of a difference, but at least we could say that was our final effort. And boy, a lot of effort there.
It really, it is a lot of effort, but you'd be amazed how many more people do go when it's a public library and they have those extra hours to see it on weekends and on evenings, because they don't have that access when it's in the middle school or in the high school. They're only open for those hours, and those parents are working till 5 p.m.
Yeah.
It's just that we need to make sure that it is accessible to parents, and that's the whole point. Is our school district is exceptional because I believe we are the only school district that has done this. We go that extra mile, and I just want to make sure everybody knows that we are going that extra mile to make sure they get a chance to see and review the curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Because, there's so much out there that people are looking at and saying, oh God, are my kids getting this and that?
Right.
I want them to see what's in our books, that we're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes or put a fast one over. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
So here's my proposal. What we'll do is midweek, I have to talk to Ryan, my assistant. She and I are working on a plan, but I think midweek we could get the materials into the library, and I still need to call them and talk to them, but they've been very kind and open to that. And then we can run it for a couple of weeks and just
except for to be out for 2 weeks. That's the law, that it's got to be in the hands of the public who are paying the taxes.
Sure.
It's not just the public that have kids, it's the public that are paying the taxes.
Right. So we'll run it for 2 weeks, and it still will be within our timeline to get get approval. So I think we will be fine. So just know that that's what we're going to do. And I can't imagine why that wouldn't work out. So
I know I've had as many as 25 people come into the public library with me.
that's great.
But they don't leave any messages, which frustrates me, but
I
still,
know.
at
I
least
think
I
they just
know
don't
that
know what
they've
to
seen it
say.
and they've looked at it, and I know that they've had access to it.
And maybe that's what we want, you know,
Yes.
at least we know that they did that. So please know we will work on that and make sure it
Okay.
happens. It's
Let me
important.
know when it is, because that's when I access it.
I will. Yeah,
Thank you. All
I
right.
will.
Okay.
certainly.
All right.
All right. So I am going to share my screen. And Lori, I'm going to ask you to kind of be my wingman and let me know. I'm not quite ready yet, but let me know when I'm. Can you see this, Lori? Excellent. And I can
Yes.
see you, by the way. Yeah, I can see it right down the side. Okay, so this evening, I am going to share with you the district's integrated plan. And when I say integrated, I'm talking about those 6 initiatives that ODE has come up with around improving the learning experience for students. So our objective tonight is that the board and the public just get a broad understanding of what these 6 initiatives are. 4 out of the 6 of them do come with funding, grant funding. And then what's the district's plan with the funding that we are getting and around these initiatives. Part of why I am doing this is to meet the requirements of the application that I'll be submitting March 31st. I'm presenting this to the board. This is the broad overview. Everything I present tonight will be posted on our website, and Lori's going to help me personally send it to you, not till the end of next week, but you'll get this slide deck. You're going to get my actual application. You're going to get the actual budget for these, this funding. So you'll be given the opportunity to dive into it. And then the next time I come or talk to you about this same topic, it'll be March 9th, and you can ask me questions about it. And then on the 16th, I'll come and ask for an official approval, and the board will approve the plan as, I'm not sure if the budget is being approved. I think it's just the plan. The budget will be approved during our regular budget cycle. So I will review that timeline again at the very end of this presentation. So these integrated 6 initiatives you have heard, I'm sure many of you are very familiar with them. The 4 that are funded, that come with funding, are the High School Success Act, the Student Investment Account, SIA, the CTE, which is Career and Technical Support, and then the Early Indicator Intervention System. And that's a small funded grant. I wanted to share briefly with you, and again, you will get this slide deck, so you can take, I'm going to go kind of quickly, but know that you can, you'll have time to, on your own time, to dive into this a little further.
Yeah, I will.
But each of these has a goal that's set by law from the state. So the High School Success Act, the basic focus is to increase high school graduates, right? And high school graduate rate. And we know that if our 9th graders are on track to graduate by the end of their first year, the likelihood of them graduating is high. So all of these initiatives are based on research-based strategies of helping students be successful. Student Investment Account, you can see those 2 goals. One is to meet students' mental health or behavioral needs and to reduce academic disparities and increase academic achievement. And then the other one that I have on the screen is continuous improvement planning. And that's a non-funded one, but it's something that we do. That's why we have the Late Start Fridays, is we're meeting in the PLC's professional learning communities, and we're pushing on improving, and we work through this cycle. Underneath there, and I'm not going to read these things to you, but those are what I call drivers. A driver is, what are things you can do to get to your goal? How do you drive to that goal and make it happen? And those are suggestions by ODE. And actually, a lot of them we are doing with our funding. So here's the last of the 6. We have CTE. And that is, as most of you know, to develop a more fully the academic knowledge, technical skills, and employability of our secondary and post-secondary students. Everyday Matters is really to address chronic absenteeism. And then finally, the Early Indicator Intervention System is really to help you establish systems and processes that support timely response to academic or social emotional need. And just basically, I always think back, Director Luke, Mark, you brought up once, you know, our district will report out our state testing data, right, in the fall of most years. And by then it's already happened. So we need real-time data. And so I do have to once again say, think tools like iReady, the iReady tool we purchased last year. Thank you, board, for that, because it is real-time data. Lori Van Dyne will come back and talk to you about our math data, but teachers can see right away where their students are and what areas that they need to grow in. I was working with the first grade teachers for our district during in-service day, and we could see that our students needed order of operations. That was the target that they were going to work on, because they could see in their data that they needed to do that with first grade students. So it's those things that this early indicator intervention system helps purchase. So here's the planning process that we have gone through. We did a needs assessment early on. We started with our admin team, but we've been collecting and working on it as we go. It's something that kind of never stops, but the qualitative data is things like your survey. The focus groups that Studer is running right now also will help serve how we plan for our students and how we invest in them. The quantitative data is going to be your state testing, but also the real-time data like iReady. Dibbles testing is another thing. Our K-5 literacy, we do it a diagnostic every term. That's also helpful in that. And then our community engagement was the surveys that we do, focus groups or individual contact. Last spring, we've done this practice for a few years, and I'd like to keep up with it. I ask principals every spring to randomly select about 5 families and call them and just give them a personal call and ask them how the year went. So they have done that the last 2 years. So all of that data is put together. That's what we call our needs assessment. And then it fuels our plan. And that's what we develop it off of. Academically, how are our students doing? You know, the Youth Truth Survey data, what did that tell us? Where do we need to invest? If there's students that have been absent and we have our attendance coaches talking to them, what is the reason for their lack of attendance, and try to encourage them or engage them better, and how can we make things better for them. So the plan then, the whole idea is that students can access their education, and we do that by paying attention to their unique needs. So that was the process that we followed. Oops. All right. So I'm going to talk to you about our needs assessment highlights. So out of that needs assessment, one thing I wanted the board to recognize is what we call our student focal groups. These are students that we at times have to give, well, not at times, we do need to give them more support just to get to the point of achieving where they need to be. So you think of our students with disabilities, 16.4% of our student population are students with disabilities. Economically disadvantaged students, 24.1% of our student population lives at the poverty line, and English learner students, 14.5%. We keep them in mind as we are working through and building our plan as well as all of our students. So here's the needs assessment highlights. I'm not going to read them to you, but I will kind of tell you what they focus on, so you can see, you know, math and reading achievement. It's gone down since 21-22. We've had a big disruption with the pandemic, and you can see it in a lot of our data. Those 3 focal groups I talked about, they do remain the furthest away from meeting benchmark achievement. And in the last year, fewer high school students have earned at least 1 advanced course credit or CTE credit. You might think, well, is that really a big deal? It is, if we're trying to make sure we reach those goals. And fewer students are regular attenders. And I used to get confused. I put that in there. A regular attender is the students who are present for 90% of all school days. So that's just important to know that as well. Make sure I didn't miss a slide.
That means they can still miss one day out of every 2 weeks, which is a lot.
Yeah, it is. Mitch, that's impressive, by the way. Yes. So let's see. So community engagement highlights. These are the things that came out of youth truth surveys and the end of the year connection, the phone calls I talked about, and then focus group feedback. But you can just see, you know, the first one is somewhat positive. 91% of our students rated any kind of engagement question, like anything about school and, you know, what excites them. Most of them had a positive response, and although this is high, it was a 3% drop from the previous school year. Middle school and high school students, when they were asked about questions about positive relationships, culture, and belonging, their positive responses range from the 17 to 40% positive rates. That's pretty low. So it's something we need to pay attention to. And I know Randy Dalton really paid attention when he built his school improvement plan to that. I will also say that that middle school after school program is talked about a lot. It has been a great success, and we got to keep going with that. Although none of these initiatives I'm talking about can fund this, the physical space of our middle school was brought up frequently in a lot of our surveys. And our migrant parents, we had a migrant parent advisory meeting in the fall. We'll have another one in the winter before spring break. They voiced that although school's a positive place for their children, the communication from the districts and schools could be improved. And I remember I talked to them, well, what ways work for you to be communicated? And it was interesting, but text is a big one. Texting, they do read the newsletters and things like that, but different pathways, I think, are always important when you're trying to reach people and communicate with them. All right, so you know about the needs, and now we're going to talk about the goals. So when I talk about goals, these are the outcomes that we are striving to meet. And so they are all based around these 6, I guess we could call them 6 metrics. 3rd grade reading proficiency, research says if a student is on track at 3rd grade reading, they will be a successful student. So that's very important. K-8 math proficiency, regular attendance. You can see how all this fits together. I not only wrote out the outcomes, but I also thought it was important to write down the tool of measurement. What gets measured happens. I can't remember who said that. So we're really focusing on that improvement process and making sure we have the tools to measure things in real time, and then we are able to respond accordingly. So we have what's called the Acadience diagnostic, which is really used to be called DIBBLS. It's just a way of measuring K-5 literacy skills. And then that's state scoring, or sorry, state assessments, 3rd grade reading proficiency. Sorry, everybody. And then for math, our Ready diagnostic, and then Synergy database, it gathers all of our attendance data. Our other 3 outcomes that we're striving to meet are 9th graders on track for graduation, graduation rate, and then a positive school culture. And that's a big deal, because if you are able to create a positive culture, the students will be thrilled to be there and learning will happen. So how do we plan to make all of this happen? We've talked about the outcomes, we talked about the needs. Now, what are the strategies? These strategies are basically what we've been investing in. You're not going to see anything. So here, most of what you see on this screen is what we are funding with our SIA funds. And nothing is necessarily going to change, because if you think about it, we've just started implementing these things. And I know on our board, we have some business people. And so you probably understand that anytime, and others, I know other professionals, anytime you're trying to create change, you've got to stick with your strategy for a while and look at it and measure it and tweak it. If you see it's not working, maybe it's just a small adjustment. So these are the things that we've been investing in for the last year. Remember last year, we were still coming out of the disruption of COVID. On this page, you can see our high school success funding, some of the strategies under that, and then systems of improvement is that early indicator system. So how will we know what we're doing is working? You know, you've got the tools, you've measured it. How are you going to know? So we've got these 5 metrics that we are setting what we call longitudinal performance growth targets. For your graduation, we're going to look at over 5 years. How do we want to grow this? It's sort of like, I was talking to a colleague the other day and I said, it's like moving a very large cruise ship. We're not a speedboat. We can't turn it on a dime. It takes strategic planning, and it's going to feel small, slow increments. But if you keep pushing on that, you will get to where you need to be. So I'm just going to give you a little information on longitudinal performance growth targets, what they are. And then when you are able to view all of this a little bit deeper in March, you'll see them. And then you can ask me further questions too, if you want a better understanding of it. But growth goals are based off of data. And I've talked to you over that. It's over a 5-year period. It's broken into 3 your performance growth targets. Although it's under, you know, those 5 metrics, there's actually 3 targets under each metric. One's a baseline target, and that's your minimum expectations. Another is a stretch target. That's significant improvement. And then gap closing is the focal groups, those 3 really closing the gap between them and their peers and achievement. Let's see, what else do I want to say about the targets? So for now, I think that's good. All right, so here's an overview of the budget. When you are really looking at this, you're going to see a breakdown of the budget. It's a spreadsheet. It's got all the coding. Some people aren't going to understand the coding, but I think what's most important is just getting a general overview, which is what this does. So High School Success Act, we're in, and Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are in year 1 right now. So it's, you know, in the $600,000 range there. And these are our investments listed underneath. The career and technical education, that is not yet determined, but you can see what it is investing in. The SIA investment account, that's almost $2 million a year. And you can see where we're investing. One of the biggest investments in this pot of money is people, increasing the adult to student ratios at the primary level. And we also were able to get PE up and going again. And then finally, the early indicator intervention systems. That is a pretty small bucket. It's $6,000. So it pays for a data dashboard where we house all of our data. So here we are at the end. Our next steps, here's a timeline. Today was the broad overview, March 3rd, and I'll have Lori help me send these things directly to you, but they will also be posted on our website for the public, and public can make public should make public comment. But my slide deck that you saw tonight, the integrated funding budget, which is the actual budget spreadsheet, the district integrated funding grant application, which consists of about 50 questions. You can run through it, but there'll be an executive summary at the top, and that qualifies as our application. On March 9th, I'll come back and just see what questions you have. It would really help me out that as you go through this, if you start to have questions, kind of make a little list and then email them to me, because it'd be nice if I don't have to say, oh, let me look into that. It'll give me an opportunity to do any kind of research that if I don't know the answer to the question. And then
Kathleen, oh, sorry to interrupt you. How long will that be on the district website for public comment?
I don't know what the window is, but it will be a while, and I think I have to keep that posted. It never comes back off. So really the public could comment anytime they wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. So let's see. So I will come back to you finally March 16th. That will be my final request for approval of this plan, and my application submission deadline for these 4 grants, 6 initiatives, is the 31st. And that's it. Any questions? I know that was a lot.
You did really well. You summed it up very nicely.
Thanks. I
Okay.
know it helps me too, because of course I'm managing it. So I kind of break it down as cleanly as I can.
I have one question, Kathleen, and
Yes.
maybe Keith. Does this, I guess, maximize the potential available dollars, these requests?
Say that for me again.
Do these amounts budgeted, does this maximize the available dollars to our
Oh,
district
Yes, it
in,
does.
in each segment?
Yes. We are receiving the maximum amount that we can in each of those 4 buckets. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty,
Thank you.
alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Oh, number 4. Thank you, Kathleen. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely.
Now we have the mission, vision, strategic planning update. And I think that, isn't that Mark? Yeah, Mark. You're muted. There,
I'm going to defer to Tony on this one. I had to miss
Okay.
the executive meeting this week.
okay,
So Tony, do you mind taking this?
Oh, you bet.
okay,
So the update here this week, I want to, it's, at our last planning meeting, we looked at the number of participants who engaged in the focus groups. You'll recall the focus groups invitations were sent out specifically to connect with engaged families who were engaged in PTAs and site councils and our migrant education leadership team. We put those personal invites out, and looking at the data for those who were able to attend, we decided that it would be important to open up another opportunity. I just think in this day and age that the expectation that folks have an opportunity to participate virtually when they have young children at home and such is such that by creating another virtual opportunity for these families who are invited to these focus groups, we'll maximize the engagement. So we added some additional focus groups that are going to be in virtual. And I've asked principals to put those invitations back out. Now, if there happens to be a parent out there who doesn't get this personal invitation from a principal and they want to engage, all they need to do is give a call to my office, to the principal. We'll add additional folks in. When we did listening sessions during the pandemic that were open to all parents, there were times when we had 200-300 parents chime in to virtual meetings, and running a focus group with that many wouldn't be possible. So we really made the decision to have them be by invitation. But again, I want to emphasize the door is not closed if others wish to join. Those virtual meetings are scheduled for next week. Principals are putting those invitations out, and I think that'll raise the total number of parents who've been engaged to a level that matches more what we might have hoped for. And the steering committee will shortly after those last virtual focus group meetings gather to look at the data that our facilitator, Casey Blahovich, has collated and coalesced and bring to the steering committee that first round of feedback. Remember, it's not the only opportunity for community feedback. The steering committee is going to take that, massage it, move it toward some big ideas, and they'll shop those big ideas back out with the whole community. And this time in that feedback loop, it's not going to be just with families, but it'll be with anyone who might get the link from the Pioneer website. We're going to advertise and open it up to the whole community. Seniors who don't have children in the district, but our relationship with the senior center is really important, and hearing their voices is important. So that second round of feedback will happen, I believe that's out later in March, but things are moving forward based on the timeline that the board saw from Casey originally. with that one addition of we've added a couple additional digital focus group meetings coming up next week.
Superintendent, man, can you share the date and time of those, the next focus groups?
Those are on Wednesday, March 1st and Thursday, March 2nd from 6 to 7 p.m. if I recall correctly. Lori, am I right about that?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I was just looking that up. I want to say it's like 5:30 to 6:30 or 6 to 7.
It looks like in my calendar, it shows 6 to 7. We'll confirm that for
Yeah.
you. But if a board member or two wishes to, to attend those and welcome folks as you did during the in-person focus group meetings, let Lori know, and we'll make sure that you get the link for that as well.
If possible, Lori, could they go on that spreadsheet?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good idea.
So that would be wonderful. Yes. Okay, so you're all done. I'm gonna go into
Have-
upcoming meetings, regular
if I may-
business. What's that?
Director Esker, just one last comment.
Yes,
Tie
okay.
Back to the earlier discussion regarding the impact of inclement weather and road conditions north of us.
Yes.
During the course of your meeting, I've been working with principals and getting that initial data regarding teacher absences. At this point, again, no decisions are made by final, but at this point, I am concerned about the number of absences that we will see tomorrow and our inability to bring in guest teachers in the workforce environment that we're in, that to do school tomorrow may be such that it becomes more about supervision than quality instruction. And because quality instruction is what we're about, if I do make the decision to cancel school tomorrow, it'll be very carefully communicated to our parents. And at this moment in time, I'm committed to adding instructional time at the end of the school year, any lost instructional time due to inclement weather. So I just wanted you to know that has changed even over the last 45 minutes of your meeting, as I've been hearing from principals about data and looking in our system around scheduled absences due to safety concerns, leaving driveways that are, again, I will tell you, I have seen the photos myself of people who have driveways that are like this, that are covered with a sheet of ice with snow under them right now, that are just, less than 15 miles north of us. So it's not a decision that I want to have to make, but it's a decision I get to make, I suppose, in my role. And if I do close school, I'll tell parents that that I'm disappointed, but we are in this situation where we've got to put quality instruction ahead of supervision with workforce challenges. So
I was a student.
safety's
I
a
mean,
priority.
if I had students, I would definitely prefer being notified sooner than later.
Yep.
So,
Madam Chair,
yes,
yeah, can I just make a comment real quick?
yeah, absolutely.
It has nothing, and I apologize, it has nothing to do with the weather or anything else, but while we were sitting here, I just got a text message from my daughter, and normally I don't bring up things about my family. But Linda, I know you know about this already, but for the rest of you, I would just ask that you keep my daughter's boyfriend, his name is Tyler, he's 25 years old, in your thoughts, and if you're of that persuasion, in your prayers. He was just scheduled for a brain surgery on March 7th. Earlier this month, he was visiting family on the Oregon coast when he had a stroke, or they thought he had a stroke. He's 25 years old.
Oh my God.
And it turned out he has a brain tumor. And they're going to operate on March 7th. And he's a really excellent young man. And I know from his text, or from my daughter's text, that he's very freaked out about this. So
Oh,
I would appreciate if you would
our prayers are
do
with
that for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
For sharing.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to talk about the upcoming meetings. Regular meeting is March 9th at the school district, and work session will be March 16th. And I need a motion to adjourn. Neil? And
we adjourn.
seconded by Amy. All right.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right arm, and it's unanimous. Thank you. It's
Thank
been
you,
a
everybody.
pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Fran.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night.
All right, you
You
take
too.
care.
Night, everyone.
Thanks for
All
sharing,
right.
Craig.
Thank you.